The stars were silent, but the galaxy was screaming her name. XY. Every bounty board, every spaceport, every soldier in the outer rings had her face on their screens. She wasn't just a killer, she was a ghost. Fast, deadly, and always gone. Before the first scream faded, Zero was the galaxy's most wanted assassin. She had just completed her latest mission. A high-value target on the moon of Vultrix 9, one shot. One clean kill, no trace. Except this time, they saw her. Someone saw her face. Now every tracker drone, every patrol ship, and every bounty hunter was after her. Her small black spacecraft tore through asteroid fields, dodging fire from behind. Her hands were steady, her red eyes focused, but blood trickled from a cut above her brow. She'd been hit during her escape. Not bad, but deep. System damage, 64%, the ship's AI warned in a cold voice. "Shut up," Zira muttered. She didn't have time to land on a safe planet. She needed to hide. Now through the smoke and sparks inside her ship, she spotted a blue and green planet ahead. Earth. A quiet place. Backwater. No bounty hunters. No one would expect her there. But her ship was failing fast. She forced it down. Through the atmosphere, flames surrounding the hull as it screamed across the sky. People on the ground would see it, a fireball falling from the stars. Her ship hit the forest hard, snapping trees and digging a trail through the dirt. Metal groaned. The ship finally stopped, half buried in a hill. The lights went out. Zira didn't move. Blood was on her lips, her vision blurred. She tried to reach for the emergency pack but passed out in the pilot's seat. Miles away, in a small cabin near the edge of the forest, a man named Eli was repairing an old satellite dish. Eli was a mechanic. He lived alone, fixed broken tech for nearby farms, and liked his peace. But when he saw the fire streak across the sky and heard the explosion, he grabbed his coat and ran. He followed the smoke and broken trees. After 20 minutes of running, he found the crash. It looked like a small fighter ship. The door was broken open. Inside, something was moving barely. He climbed in and saw her. An alien woman. Pale skin, short black hair, blood on her face and armor. She looked deadly, even while unconscious. Eli's first thought, she's not from around here. His second thought, she's going to die if I leave her. He didn't know her name. He didn't know she had ended hundreds of lives. He only saw someone broken. Someone in pain. So he pulled her out of the wreckage, lifted her over his shoulders, and carried her back home. Hours later, Zira woke up in a strange bed. Her arm was bandaged. The room was warm. She could smell food. Her eyes scanned the space. She saw wooden walls, simple tools, and something she didn't expect. Safety. She grabbed a small knife, hidden in her boot, and silently sat up. Then she heard the sound of someone humming. She peeked out of the room and saw Eli cooking soup. He looked up and smiled, not afraid at all. "You're awake, that's good." Zira didn't speak. "I found you in the forest," Eli said. "You crashed. I patched you up. Why?" She asked coldly. "You looked like you needed help," he said with a shrug. She blinked. No one had ever helped her without a reason. No one ever smiled at her like that, like she was just a person. "You're safe here," Eli added. "If you want to eat, the soup's almost ready." She stepped closer, knife still behind her back. He noticed but didn't flinch. "I don't care who you are," he said calmly. "You were bleeding. That's all I needed to see." But deep in the galaxy, a signal was sent. Her ship's emergency beacon had activated for just a second before. Dying, that was enough. On a bounty hunter's ship far above Earth, a red light blinked. "Found you," the hunter growled. Back in the cabin, Zira stood in the corner, still holding her knife. She didn't understand this human. He was alone. Weak, soft, but kind. She hadn't met kind in a long, long time. She whispered to herself, "What are you hiding, human?" She didn't know it yet, But the answer would change her forever. Asterisk. The first thing she smelled was soup. Warm, strange, peaceful. The second thing she noticed was the quiet. No alarms, no gunshots, no screams. Just the soft sound of wood cracking in a fire. Zira opened her eyes slowly. She was alive. And that was strange. Assassins like her didn't wake up in warm beds. They didn't get second chances. If the enemy caught her, she would be dead already. So why was she breathing? Why was her body wrapped in soft blankets and bandaged with care? She didn't trust it. Not for a second. Eli sat on a stool nearby, sipping tea. He looked tired, dirty, human, but calm. He had been checking her condition every hour. She was still weak from the crash, but her heartbeat was strong and the fever had dropped. She stirred again. "You're safe," Eli said gently. "Don't move too fast." Zira's eyes flicked open, and then she moved fast. Her hand shot toward her boot, but the knife was already in her grip. In less than a second, she was off the bed, blade aimed at his throat. Eli didn't blink, didn't step back, didn't scream. "Easy now," he said, raising both hands. "I saved you, remember?" She didn't drop the knife. "Why?" she asked. Her voice was low, dangerous. "You needed help." "That's not an answer. It's the only one I have." Zira hesitated. Her fingers shook. This human wasn't afraid. She had killed men twice his size, warriors with cybernetic arms, guards in armor thicker than tanks. And yet this soft, quiet man just stood there, offering soup. No threats, no chains, no bounty alerts. She took a step back, still holding the knife. Eli nodded toward the table. "You should eat. You're gonna need strength." She said nothing, but her stomach growled, loudly, embarrassed. She sat down, never letting go of the knife, and began to eat, slow, careful. It was the first warm meal she'd had in over 3 years. She didn't cry. Assassins don't cry, but something inside her chest twisted. Later that night, Zira sat in the corner of the room, watching Eli sleep. He had left the bed for her and curled up on an old chair instead. She could kill him now. Easily. One cut, one silent move. But she didn't. Instead, she asked herself something terrifying. Why didn't he kill me? Far away, in deep space, bounty signals echoed. A ship was approaching Earth's orbit. Black, silent, deadly. Inside, a tracker blinked with her name, Zira. Target confirmed. Status, wanted. Reward, 3 million credits. The next morning, Zira followed Eli as he worked. He fixed solar panels, repaired fences, and helped a nearby farm girl haul parts. Everyone smiled at him, trusted him, called him the helpful human. Zira watched from a distance. No one knew what she was, what she had done. She felt like a ghost among light. Eli offered her tools. "Want to help?" She stared. "You trust me with this?" He smiled. "You're not the first scary guest I've had. I could kill you right now. Maybe," he said. "But I don't think you will." Zira was speechless. No one had ever looked past her blade before. That night, she found a small mirror in his workshop. She looked at herself, scarred, cold eyes. Assassin. But under all that, she saw something else. Something very small. Something that looked almost human. Just as she started to feel safe, her heart skipped. A sound echoed in the sky. Engines. Low. Hunting. She looked up. No. They found her. Once, the stars feared her. Now, she feared what was coming from them. Zira stood outside Eli's cabin, eyes locked on the sky. A sound, low, cold, mechanical, rumbled from above the clouds. She knew that sound. A bounty ship, not just any. That one belonged to Grak. Grak was no ordinary hunter. He used to be a killer like her, until he found profit in chasing his own kind. He had trained with Zira once. Now he hunted her for sport and credits. She had become prey. Inside, Eli was fixing an old plasma torch. He looked up as Zero walked in silent, tense, eyes sharp like blades. "They're here," she said flatly. Eli stood up. "What do you mean?" She didn't answer. She simply walked to the door, grabbed a piece of metal, and began welding it over the window. "Lock everything. No lights. No noise." Eli stared at her. She wasn't just tense, she was scared. That scared him. In orbit, Grak's ship released a small drone. The drone scanned the forest, locking onto the faint signal from Zero's old ship wreckage. Target located. Cabin detected. Grak grinned under his mask. "Found you, little shadow." He loaded his plasma rifle and prepared to land. Night fell fast. The forest was silent, but Zero could feel eyes watching from the trees. She sat in the corner of the cabin, loading her only weapon, a hidden wristblade soaked in poison. She had no gun, no armor. Just speed, instinct, and a promise to herself. She would not let Eli die. Eli, on the other hand, quietly watched her from across the room. He didn't speak. He didn't ask. He just handed her a short metal pipe and said, "In case I need to swing something." She looked at him. "Why are you still here?" "Because I won't run." "You should. I'm not worth dying for." Eli smiled faintly. "You don't get to decide that." Just before midnight, the cabin door creaked. Then it opened. Slowly. Eli raised the pipe. Zero raised her wrist blade, but it wasn't Grak. It was a small animal, just a forest rodent. Zero exhaled. But deep inside, she knew it was a test. Grak did this often, send distractions to study reactions. He was close, very close. Then, they heard it, a click, from the roof. Zero moved faster than human eyes could see. She pushed Eli to the ground, just as a red beam cut through the wall behind them. "Sniper!" She shouted. Another shot fired right where Eli's head had been. She didn't wait. She grabbed Eli's hand and dragged him to the underground storage hatch. "We stay here. Don't make a sound." Eli nodded, breath shaking. Above them, boots landed on the roof. 1.2. Gra. Come alone. Inside the dark cellar, Eli whispered. "Why is he after you?" Zero stared into the dark. "I used to be his student. Then I became his rival. Now, I'm just a prize." Eli whispered, "You don't have to go back to that life." She didn't answer, because deep down, she wasn't sure if she could. "Leave it." Upstairs, Grak stepped inside. He sniffed the air. "You're close, little ghost," he growled. "I can smell your fear." But what he didn't know was Ira wasn't afraid anymore. Not for herself. Only for the human. Back in the cellar, she looked at Eli. "I'm going up there," she said. "No." He grabbed her wrist. "They'll kill you." She looked at him, calm but sharp. "I've lived long enough in shadows. Let me face the light." Before he could speak again, she kissed his hand once, just once, and then vanished up the stairs like a phantom. Upstairs, Grak turned too late. Zero struck from the shadows. Blade met armor. Sparks flew. The two assassins danced in silence, fighting like wolves under moonlight. Grak was strong, but Zero was faster still. He smiled. "You've grown soft." "Protecting a human? How sweet." She stabbed him in the side. "That human has more honor than you'll ever have." He laughed and kicked her through the window. She landed hard. Bleeding. Grak stood over her, rifle pointed at her chest. "Say goodbye, sister." But then WHK. A metal pipe hit Grak across the head. Eli. Standing, shaking, but not running. "You okay?" he asked Zero. She smiled through the blood. "Now I am." Once, she killed without thinking. Now she hesitated, because for the first time in her life, someone had fought for her. Not against her. Zero stared at Eli. He was holding a dented metal pipe, standing between her and a hunter twice his size. His hands were shaking. He had no armor, no training, no chance. But he didn't run. That changed everything. Grak wiped blood from his forehead, smiling like a beast. You brought a toy to a knife fight? He growled at Eli.XY rose to her feet. Her side ached. Her lip was split. But her body remembered what it was made for: violence. She stepped forward. You shouldn't have touched him. Grak turned. There's the old fire. She didn't. Speak again. She attacked. What followed was not a fight, it was war in a heartbeat. Zira and Grak crashed through trees, blades flashing like lightning in the dark. The air smelled of smoke, blood, and fire. Grak pulled a plasma blade. She dodged. She grabbed a burning branch. He kicked it aside. She was smaller, faster. He was stronger, heavier. They circled like predators, silent and deadly. Eli watched from behind a fallen log. His heart pounded like a drum. He had never seen anyone move like Zira. She was a storm with eyes, but Zira was bleeding. Bad. Grak landed a cut across her back. She dropped to one knee. You're slowing down, he hissed. That human made you soft. Zira didn't deny it. She just looked up and said, maybe soft is stronger than you think. Then she twisted her body and flung a blade from her wrist straight into his leg. Grak howled. She didn't stop. She leaped onto him, slamming him to the ground. Her blade pressed to his throat, but she didn't kill him. Not. Grak laughed under her grip. What's wrong? Losing your taste for blood? Her hands shook. She could end it. One cut, but Eli's voice echoed in her mind. You don't have to go back to that life. Tears burned behind her eyes. I'm not like you anymore, she whispered. Then she stood up, walked away. Grak stared, shocked, but he was a fool. He reached for his gun. Eli saw it. Zira, look out. Too late. The shot fired. Zira spun and took the hit. She dropped. Eli screamed. He grabbed the pipe and ran at Grak with everything he had. It wasn't smart. It wasn't strong. But it was enough. The pipe smashed into Grak's face again and again until the hunter stopped moving. Eli fell beside Zira, eyes wide with panic. She was breathing. Barely. He carried her back to the cabin, blood dripping onto the ground. She faded in and out of consciousness. He cleaned the wound, stopped the bleeding, sat beside her all night. At sunrise, she finally opened her eyes. Still here? She whispered weakly. He smiled, tears in his eyes. You scared me. I scare everyone, not me. That morning, she looked at her hands, hands that once only took lives, but now they had protected one. She said softly, maybe I can change. Eli nodded. You already have. Far away, deep in space, a message went out. Target, Zira. Status unknown. Last signal, Earth sector. But no one knew she had just made a choice to fight not just with blades, but with a heart. The cabin smelled like soup, engine oil, and blood. That mix had become normal now. But today, it smelled like something else too. Something heavy, quiet, final. It smelled like a goodbye that hadn't been spoken yet. Zira sat on the floor, sharpening her blade, not because she needed it sharp, but because her hands didn't know what else to do. She had healed enough to walk again, but not enough to fight 10 more like Grak, and they would come. She knew it. The galaxy didn't forget people like her. Not until they were dead. Across the room, Eli was fixing an old device, an energy scrambler. He had built it from spare parts, wires, and a few tricks he learned long ago. If it worked, it would erase her signal from the bounty network, but to activate it, she'd need to go back to the warship that trained her, back to the graveyard. Are you sure about this? Eli asked, tightening a bolt. Zira nodded. If I don't go back, they'll keep hunting. They'll never stop. Eli looked at her. Then I'm coming with you. She didn't answer at first. Then, no. I helped you fight Grak. You almost died. So did you. She stared at him. He didn't flinch. Finally she sighed. Fine, but if things go bad, you run. He smiled. I won't. Nice try. Later that night, she showed him a scar on her back. A mark burned into her skin 3 circles. It means property of the Black Code, she said. The assassin guild that made me. They branded you? They owned me. Eli gently touched the mark. Not anymore. For the first time, Zyra didn't pull away. The next morning they left. A borrowed skimmer took them across the desert and into the ruined mountains where her old guild warship lay hidden beneath the rocks. Dead but not forgotten. As they stood before the broken hull, Zyra whispered, "This place made me." Eli said, "Let's unmake it." Inside, the ship was cold, dark, still humming with echoes. Rusty weapons hung on the walls. Dried blood stained the floors. It smelled like metal and pain. Zyra led him through the halls. Remembering every step, every scar, they reached the control room. She plugged in the scrambler. "Once I run this," she said, "it will burn all data linked to me. Bounties, IDs." "Traces, but?" Eli asked. She looked at him. "They'll feel it. And they'll come. How fast?" She looked at the blinking screen. "We have minutes." "Maybe less." Eli stood close. "Then let's make them count." He placed the final fuse into the device. It began to hum, then spark, then glow. Signal burning. Data deleting. The air felt thick, like the whole galaxy was watching. And then a voice came through the ship's old speakers. "Little Shadow." Zyra froze. That voice, it belonged to him. The master. He was alive. And he was waiting. Somewhere in the ship. Asterisk. She once dreamed of killing him. But now that the moment was here, she wasn't sure she could even look him in the eyes. The voice echoed through the warship's walls like a ghost with claws. "You returned, Little Shadow. I didn't think you had the courage." Zyra stood frozen in front of the old control panel. The signal scrambler was still running, burning her past one line of code at a time. But her heart wasn't focused on that now. She knew that voice. She had heard it in her nightmares. Cold, sharp, proud. The voice of the man who trained her, broke her, and turned her into a killer. The master. Eli saw the change in her. Her hands didn't shake, but her eyes did. "Where is he?" Eli whispered. XY Rhea looked down the dark hallway behind them. "He's already here." Footsteps clicked on the metal floor. Then came the shadow. A tall alien figure stepped into view. His armor was sleek, dark, and deadly. His eyes, silver and cruel, locked onto Zyra like a hunter watching a wounded animal. But he didn't look surprised. He looked amused. "You've gone soft," he said, tilting his head. "Running with a human, living in cabins, shameful." Eli stepped forward, but Zyra stopped him with a hand. "This is my fight." The master drew 2 blades. "I taught you everything. Now I'll unteach you by carving your heart out." Zyra didn't flinch. She stepped forward, slowly drawing her poisoned wrist blade. "I'm not your student anymore." What followed was a silent, brutal dance, blade against blade. Step for step, metal rang like thunder in the cold ship. She moved with speed, but he moved with power. She struck low. He blocked high. He kicked. She rolled. He slashed her arm. She sliced his leg. But it wasn't just a fight. It was a memory. Every move brought back a lesson. Every wound whispered of pain long buried. Eli watched, helpless. He had never seen anyone fight like her. But he also saw something else. She was holding back. "Zyra," he shouted, "you can beat him." She gritted her teeth. "I don't want to be him." The master laughed as he punched her to the ground, still weak. "You should have let me kill you as a child. It would have been mercy." Zyra coughed blood. Her blade slipped from her fingers. He raised his own blade over her heart. And then a shot rang out. The master staggered. Eli stood behind him, holding a smoking blaster. His hands were shaking. Zyra stared in shock. Eli had never killed before. The master turned to Eli, fury in his eyes. "You dare!" But Zyra was already moving. With one final breath of rage and clarity, She launched herself. Upward, her blade drove deep into the master's chest. He looked down at her, shocked. For once, no words came from his mouth. Then he fell dead. The silence that followed was louder than any scream. Zira stood still. She looked at the body, then at Eli. And then she dropped the blade. Later, outside the ship, the signal scrambler completed its final task. The bounty networks flashed red once, then went dark. Zira's name was gone. No more target. No more price. She was free. But freedom felt heavy. She sat on the rocks, blood on her hands, wind in her hair. I didn't want to kill him, she whispered. Eli sat beside her. Then why did you? She didn't answer for a long time. Then, finally, to save you and to save me. Asterisk, the galaxy had forgotten her name, and for the first time. She liked that. Zira stood on a hill above the ruined warship. The wind carried no alarms. No sirens, no voices calling her a monster. Just silence. Peaceful, strange, beautiful. She had lived her life in shadows, moving from target to target. One kill after another. Now the only thing in her sights was a sunrise and a human standing beside her. Eli handed her a warm cup of tea. Not medicine. Not a weapon. Just something simple. Still think I should have run away from you? He asked with a smile. Zira sipped the tea. Yes, but I'm glad you didn't. She didn't smile much. But now there was something on her face, a small softness. Not quite a smile, but close. They returned to the cabin that afternoon. The damage was still there. Broken walls, scorch marks, blood stains on the floor, but it felt like home again. Zira cleaned her blades and packed them away, not on her hips, but in a box under the bed. I don't need these anymore, she said. You sure? Eli asked. I'm not a weapon. Now I'm something else. That night, she stood outside and stared at the stars. She used to fear them. Every light up there might have been a hunter's ship. A new death chasing her. But not anymore. She was no longer the galaxy's most wanted. She was no one. And in that silence, she finally whispered the words she never thought she could say. I'm tired. Eli came to stand beside her. Then, rest, he said. Weeks passed. Then months. They repaired the cabin, grew vegetables, built solar panels that actually worked. Eli taught her to use tools that didn't kill. She taught him how to fight just in case. They didn't talk about them past much, but it was always there. Like an old scar, healed, but never forgotten. One morning, Zira looked in a mirror. No makeup, no blood, just her face. She touched the brand on her back, the one the guild had burned into her. Then she took Eli's old welding torch and burned it off. When she walked out of the room, Eli saw the smoke. You okay? She nodded. It's gone. What is? My leash. One day, a trader ship passed by. The pilot stopped at their farm to fix a broken part. He looked at Zira once, then twice. His eyes widened. You look like someone from the bounty posters, he said. XY Ray tilted her head. Do I? The pilot shrugged. Maybe not. Those names are gone now, erased. Must have been fake. She smiled and handed him the part. Safe travels. That night, Eli cooked her favorite soup. They ate in silence, watching the fire. Then, Eli asked, what do you want to be now? She thought about it. I don't know, she said. But maybe something good. She had been a ghost, a killer, a shadow in the dark. Now she was a woman sitting beside a man who believed in her. That was enough. Final scene. Zira lay down beside Eli under the stars. Her blade was gone. Her past was fading. He turned to her and asked softly, do you feel safe now? She looked at him. And for the first time in her life, she said, yes,